so I can share. Welcome back to our show where we expose corrupt politicians and lying corporate media. We got a good show. Some new poll results come in showing that Governor Walz isn't doing that well in Minnesota. So joining me to talk about these important issues is our own MAGA Jesse. How you doing, Jesse?
Doing good, Jake. Thanks for having me. I mean, we got this awesome new set. People are, I'm sure, are going to love it. It's, exciting that we're doing this and things are moving forward and excited to talk about all this stuff today.
Also joining us today live is young William Beck. William, how you doing, man?
You know what, Jake? I'm doing pretty well. Again, I'm in the white chair. I'm not in the back room, so life can't be too bad.
I think you belong in the white chair. Did I nail it? Was it just you forgot?
I was out of. My black socks are in the laundry. If I had known that we would be zooming in on my socks today, I probably would have washed an extra pair. But
well, we're going to put you in the hot seat today, and also joining the ones with all the slides. So if just to set the scene, if you guys have been following this, Governor Walz was supposedly in an 18-point lead after the state fair. This was a KSTP online poll. We're going to talk a little bit about the problems with that poll. So this came to a shock to a lot of people that this is actually showing a neck-to-neck race. So right there, we look at Minnesota's Biden approval rating, and we have almost 50% of Minnesotans saying they strongly disapprove of Joe Biden, 5% saying they disapprove. He gets 20.8% of approval and 22.8% of strongly approval, and then 2.2% of people living in a cave somewhere, apparently. Here's my question for you guys. What the hell is with 22% saying strongly approve? I mean, I get it. He's your guy. You're a Democrat. You hate Trump. But how can you look at the world today and say, oh, yeah, I strongly approve of that guy?
Right. I'm just as clueless as you on that one. I mean, I cannot understand the mentality because even among progressives and true liberalism, Joe Biden is doing a terrible job. He's totally corrupt. He's totally establishment, and he is totally coming after our rights and our freedom. So I'm not sure why these Democrats are feeling the need to say they strongly approve of Joe Biden because there's nothing about his presidency to approve of.
well, I mean, you got to take into consideration that the media is going overtime.
22% who just blindly follow the media, because I think you're making a great point. Like, how on earth could you see the things out there and say he's doing really good? I strongly approve of it. Maybe because you're not seeing the things out there because the media is like kind of blinding you from that. And social media, for what it's worth, which we'll get into later in this program. So that's where Joe Biden stands right now in Minnesota. Go back to that graphic there, Dawson, and let's look at where the governor's race is. This is the next one down. By the way, this was done by Trafalgar Group, which was a pollster that accurately predicted Trump winning in 2016. But they do go more to the Republican side, but we'll show you kind of their control for that. So Tim Walz and Peggy Flanagan have a 47.7%. So in the question, who would you vote for today? They get 47.7%. Jensen and Burke right behind him at 45%. Now it's a 7.7%, or I'm sorry, 2.7% difference. The margin of error is 2.9% of the poll, meaning this is basically a virtual tie if you factor in the margin of error. No other state candidate is really pulling much. You have James McCaskill at basically 1.5%. Everyone else is below 1%. And then you got the 5% undecided, which also should spell trouble for Tim Walz, in my opinion. I think undecideds in this election are going to break for the new guy. Do you guys agree with that? Or at least not for the incumbent.
Yeah. I mean, I think anytime, this is the pretty known rule, anytime that an incumbent is under 50%, that's trouble.
Right.
Right, and one thing I want to give credit for in this poll is one thing you don't normally see in these polls is all of the candidates listed out, but that is the way that the election is going to go. All of these people are on the ballot, so the results that are going to
show people the result or the options they're actually going to have on election day. And when you don't do that, how scientific of a poll is it? And so I agree. I think this one did a good job by at least showing people what's going to be on that ballot.
Right, and had we not seen those third parties on there, we wouldn't know that 1.5% is going to vote legal marijuana now, or 0.8% is going to vote independence, or even that there's a socialist workers party. I mean, just that fact alone is going to draw away some support from the left. So these are all things that should be considered and should be taken into a true scientific poll.
Right. So let's go back to some of these other results here because it actually gets a little bit better when you go to some of the other statewide candidates. For Attorney General right now, Jim Schultz is leading Keith Ellison by almost a 4-point margin with 5% undecided, which once again, you would imagine that's going to break heavily for the pro law and order candidate Jim Schultz here. So guys, is it possible here we're going to actually see Keith Ellison get his butt kicked on election day?
I don't think it's just possible. I think it's likely at this point, personally. Keith Ellison has been known as a partisan. He's been known as an anti-Semite, and he's been known as anti-law and order. So I think a lot of people see that, and he's probably the most likely to lose statewide, in my opinion. I think Tim Walz has the best chance of winning statewide, and Keith Ellison has the worst chance of winning statewide.
Yeah, and Keith Ellison in 2018, in a massive blue wave, won because of the blue wave. So Republicans were just not doing well in that election. And then on top of that, about the last week of the election, there's about $1 million that flooded in the state of Minnesota on behalf of Keith Ellison's campaign. So he still underperformed the Democrat ticket by about 4 points. And then there's this massive hit piece in the Pioneer Press, a fraudulent piece that accused Doug Warlow of bullying a gay kid back in high school, a ridiculous hit piece that probably factored in an election as well. So he was already worse than all the other DFL statewide candidates. In this case, it's like, geez, this is not going to be a Democrat year. Does anyone believe at this point this is going to be a Democrat year? Do you guys think so? I mean,
like a Democrat wave year? No.
Yeah, not even a wave year, but like Democrats. Don't most people at least acknowledge that this year it's going to go against the grain, so to speak, with the Democrats?
For the most part, right. It depends race to race because we're talking about some of these other ones where there's just poor candidate quality by the GOP and things like that. But for the most part, like 2018, like you mentioned, Jake, 2018 was a referendum against Trump. 2022 then is a referendum against Joe Biden. It's that way for just about any sitting president. Whoever the sitting president is, you're going to see the other party do better in the midterm just because the momentum is typically on their side. And so I agree that this is going to be largely in our country a red wave year.
And you got to go back to 2002 under Bush where that wasn't the case. So, 20 years ago to find an anomaly. And what was different back then? Well, our nation just got attacked on 9/11. Right. So big difference. We're in war with Afghanistan, and I think they're banging the drums for Iraq. So the nation was like very much together, and Republicans outpointed the Democrats on those issues.
Despite these facts, though, Jake, the media especially is trying its hardest to show that Democrats are surging. They're doing well. I think that's because of the abortion talk that everyone's putting up. I think it's because polls are showing that Democrats are beating out some of these Senate candidates nationwide. Nate Silver from 538 says that the Senate is most likely to remain in Democrat hands this year because of this abortion talk.
Yeah. Well, and also the Republicans have a lot more seats up for grabs in the U.S. Senate, so that also plays a factor. And then, and it just goes race to race, which we're going to get into one of those today. But it goes race to race with looking at each of these candidates. What does the state feel? How does the state typically vote? All kinds of factors. But it is seeming that way, that there is the potential for a Democratic Senate and a Republican House, but there is still a chance for the Republicans to take both.
Well, and you want to talk about trash polls, as we were talking about with the KSDP poll. Polls in Ohio show that the Republican candidate, J.D. Vance, is down by an average of, a couple points, which is ridiculous because Trump won Ohio in 2020 by almost 11 percentage points.
Right. Ohio is one of the perfect examples of the pollsters not being able to ever predict it, because big time in 2016, Trump won. Big time in 2020, Trump won. And J.D. Vance is going to win. Tim Ryan is more of a moderate, so he might make it closer than most Democrats, but there's no chance that J.D. Vance doesn't win in Ohio. So you're right on there, William.
And you're probably so happy about that, Jesse.
Absolutely.
Go back to the slides, and I want to go down to the bottom here, and then we'll go back and look at Secretary of State and Auditor. But if you go down to keep going, right there, party participation. So they oversampled Democrats by 5 points. And now imagine that's self-identified party affiliation. But that makes sense because there's more Democrats in Minnesota than there are Republicans. So they oversample that with no party or independent, basically at 15%. Well, this is a turnout year for Republicans, right? So when you talk about, outperforming polls, let's just say those polls are accurate. But the polls only have to guess. The best thing they could do is guesstimate who's going to show up for an election. And the energy's on the Republican side. So if the energy's on the Republican side, it might be 45% Republican, 40% Democrats actually showing up. And that would be skewing the numbers, even if the poll is accurate with, assuming that those people were showing up. I think that might take place in some of these states and certainly here in Minnesota.
Right. It definitely could be that way. And like we said, the momentum is on the Republican side. People are upset with what's going on between Joe Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, and the rest of them. So, and Tim Walz, Keith Ellison right here in our own state. So, yeah, I would agree.
All right, let's go back to let's pull up the KSTP real quick. This was not that one. That's Alpha News. You had a screenshot of KSTP, didn't you? I saw that over on your screen, Dawson. There you go. Perfect. So top left is what they showed. Now, this is coming out of the state fair, which is really fascinating to us because we're actually at the state fair. And the state fair is not just a bunch of Republicans. It's like a cross-section of all of Minnesota. And we are the most popular political booth, like, hands down, right?
Yeah, no question.
Yeah, I mean, we had, like, Scott Jensen and who else came over? Jim Schultz came over. Like, these guys are coming over to us, like, acknowledging how awesome this thing was. And then you go over to the Tim Walz booth, and there's no one there. Everyone was telling us about this. We're getting pictures all times a day.
Yep.
So it's like, what does that mean? It's got to mean something. So then we get done with the state fair, and I don't think it's got a date on here. Does it have a date somewhere? Maybe we could tell by temperature. I want to say it's somewhere around September 6th. They released this poll, and it says Tim Walz 51%, Scott Jensen 33%, other cans 4%, and then undecided 12%. So first of all, they're showing Tim Walz over 50%, as you alluded to, William. That's usually good for an incumbent, although that's pretty close. But then it's showing like Scott Jensen like bottoming out here, like
right, a third. That's what they're saying. He has a third of the support of Minnesota. That is which is like ridiculous.
Jim Newberger numbers when he ran for Senate, right?
Yeah,
it's like
right.
Not even close.
I mean, that'd be saying that a lot of Trump voters from 2020 would be actively not voting for Scott Jensen.
Right.
Which Scott Jensen comes off, at least to us, as more of a moderate. So it's just crazy to think that this would be the actual result.
Yeah, I've not been a big fan of Scott Jensen, but let's just be honest. Like, Republicans are pretty united to get rid of Tim Walz. And a lot of independents. Like, Tim Walz is screwed up on 3 major issues. First of all, government spending. So here we got this huge inflationary environment, and Governor Walz is doing nothing to give us back our surplus, nothing to bring down costs of government and in our economy. Number 2, crime. So obviously crime, right? And then number 3 is, there's actually 3 things. So I would just say COVID in general.
The blame on Tim Walz.
And we had a very popular booth with younger people, which was pretty shocking because, like, you never think that. That's usually the Democrats are the ones that are attracting the youth. And I think you're nailing it right on the head. That's why we were so popular. The young people really kind of suffered under COVID. Mm-hmm. And not because of the disease. It's because of what the tyrant wannabes like Tim Walz did to him. So, yeah, it's fascinating. Although the youth don't make up a big voting bloc, but a big voting bloc is the parents, the parent age, who didn't get to watch a graduation ceremony, and that's a pretty big deal. And the people that actually are at the peak of their career, maybe either running a business or going to happy hour, and that got taken away from them. Or the people that don't want their kids to have to get a vaccination. So there's a lot of reasons for these independents to come over and vote for Tim Walz. I'm sorry, for Scott Jensen. Pull that graphic back up, Dawson, the KSTP one. Go. Oh, we got a comment? Go ahead. Oh, is her microphone not on? I heard Bridget physically. Are you there, Bridget?
Yeah, here we are.
There we go. Good.
So it says, can you guys discuss what you think Dr. Jensen is doing right with his campaign and what he could do to improve it?
Yeah, that's a great point. So that guy's got to stop just responding to the damn Democrats on abortion. Like, it's just mind-numbing. This is what happens every election cycle in Minnesota. The Democrats and the mainstream media, it's like the same freaking thing, right? They come together and they just hit on the Republicans. And it doesn't matter what your stance is. They're going to say the same thing every time. And it's usually going to be on education, or it's going to be on, you just want to take money out of the hands of the poor and give it to the wealthy. That's their talking point all the time. Mm-hmm. In fact, I keep watching these commercials about, Scott Jensen doesn't support public education. Instead, he wants to give tax cuts to the wealthy. I'm like, Scott Jensen? Like, this guy never voted for, he actually voted for a tax increase. He was always voting for the omnibus bills, the education omnibus bills. That's not even at all true. And the thing is, and this is what always bugs me, is these Republicans vote like Democrats all the time up at the Capitol, Scott Jensen included, by the way. And then their Democrats are going to still accuse you anyhow of doing it. Like, it's like, doesn't even matter how you vote. They're just going to say it. Mm-hmm. And so Scott Jensen, in my opinion, has got to stop playing defense. They're going to attack you on abortion. You can't change what they're going to come after you on, but you got to stop responding to it, and you got to go after them on crime, and go after them on COVID tyranny, and go after them on the damn economy. Mm-hmm. By the way, the polls are showing that. We'll get back to it. William, want to say something?
Oh, well, I have something I want to say. I think that you are 100% right that Scott Jensen needs to quit playing defense. It is not the way that you are going to win the governor's race. He is the incumbent. Walz is the incumbent. He has the record that he has to defend. He has to explain himself for what he just did. So I agree 100%. Quit playing defense and start playing offense.
Right. And play the media, too. Like, the media is not your friend, so you got to play him. That was the beauty of Trump. Like, the media hated Trump, like, almost from day one, but they couldn't help but cover the guy, which is great. So, like, really, the reason we have Trump is because of the media. I don't know any other way to look at it. The media basically created Donald Trump's presidency because they had to cover him. And why wouldn't you cover him? He's an interesting person. He's an entertainer.
Well, and to Scott Jensen's credit, he did call out WCCO for cutting him off and then playing a pro Tim Walz ad. We talked about this a couple shows ago.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think there's a lot left to be desired about Scott Jensen's campaign. It's not the perfect campaign, and I don't know if he was the best candidate to take on Tim Walz. But I think that it's possible. This Trafalgar poll shows that it certainly can happen. I think he needs to get his money in order because he's being outspent, 5-1? Something ridiculous like that. And he made the dumb mistake of signing the public subsidy, which caps how much he personally can spend.
Yeah, I don't know if that was going to even come into play, though, in the end. So let's go back to the let me wrap up on the KSTP poll. So the KSTP poll, which comes out right after the state fair, so we're talking about a couple weeks ago. And this thing, they're showing that the top issue, well, I guess they're not. Are they showing the top issue on this screen? They're not.
Yeah, it's... Oh, not the top.
Yeah, that's just showing how like Walz leads 77-13 on Jensen. This is the other thing. Jensen now is kind of pissed off the base because he's basically saying he's not that pro-life, right? He was like the strong pro-life candidate in the primary or the endorsement race, and now he's like, well, but there's a ton of exceptions. And the other thing that all Republicans are doing, well, it's the Supreme Court's decision. This isn't even on the ballot. I'm like, good God, guys, just stop playing defense with the damn Democrats. They're going to attack in abortion. Guess what? People are going to go to the ballot, and abortion's not the top issue. At least the people that are going to vote for you or have a chance that you possibly could get to vote for you are not going to go to the ballot about abortion. So really the people that are answering abortion as their top issue are the people never voting for you in the first place. Because like that, they're like the far left. Most people right now, they care about the fact that there's carjackings, not just in Minneapolis, spreading out through places like Edina and Golden Valley and all these places, and even outside of the inner loop. And they're really concerned about the damn economy. I was just reading a poll today. It's like, I think a majority of people are stressed over inflation, and like a third of the people, I should have had this in front of me, a third of the people are very stressed about inflation. Like, it does come down to that point, where families got to start making decisions right now. The average family has about $5,000 in more cost because of inflation. I mean, if most families can't account for a $400
Basically, Biden says, well, inflation moves, barely at all, inch to inch per month. An inch. And it's like, are you not? This guy clearly is out of touch. He's listening to whatever his advisors are telling him. He's not going to the grocery store himself to buy food.
Right.
Anyone can tell you just how expensive things are getting.
Right.
It's out of control. And I think, especially for families, that's what they're going to be voting on.
Exactly. All right, let's go back to the Alpha News poll here real quick, Dawson. I want to kind of come to a conclusion on that one. So once again, the party participation, if you go down to age participation, it kind of follows the disposition, how people vote. And then let's scroll down, keep going, past ethnicity. Obviously, we know Minnesota's mostly white. Male, female disposition. And then, is that the last slide? Yeah. Okay, go back up. I want to go cover the other statewide races. Actually, let's start with the issues. So first of all, unlike KSTP's poll, and I think Star Tribune, which just did a poll last Saturday released, which showed Walls with a 7% lead, or 7-point lead, they had economy on the top. According to the Trafalgar Group, reducing crime and ensuring violent criminals stay off the street was number one by a pretty large margin. Number two is growing the economy and creating jobs. Guys, I think if they said inflation, it's going to be a different response. Because the way they asked this question, I think they should have said inflation when they're talking about the economy. Do you agree with me on that?
Right. Yeah. No, it should definitely be mentioned. It's completely tied together, and inflation is the reason the economy isn't doing so great. So, yeah, absolutely. It should have been listed as an option along with the economy.
So, go ahead, William.
I think people who are educated on the issue understand that inflation plays into the economy. But I mean, if you're
but you're saying educate on the issue, like in a poll, they're just calling just the average
right,
voter.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
So I think you may have a point there. I'm not entirely sure.
All right,
honestly,
I got a point. Put down that point on the scoreboard there, Dawson. I was awarded a point by William. -1 point for his socks. Yeah, I think inflation then boosts that number up, because I think I'm seeing most polls that are showing inflation's like their biggest concern. Now, if you go back to that number 2, so what's people's second biggest issue, then the economy jumps. And let's look at Secretary of State race in the Alpha News poll. That's 2 slides up. So one more up right there. Between Kim Crockett and Steve Simon obviously being the incumbent, it's neck and neck. It's well within the margin of error, with 8.5% people being undecided right now. This race is a little different because I don't think a lot of people know much about the Secretary of State's race. Mm-hmm. When you go to the next one, auditor, then you really don't know a lot about it. If you want to learn more about the auditor position, Neil Shaw's podcast, Save Soda, they just released an episode with Ryan Wilson, who's leading Julie Blaha, Miss White Claw herself, Julie Blaha. And this race in particular has got a little bit more momentum from the third-party candidate, Tim Davis, almost fetching 5% with legal marijuana now. And then a big amount of people undecided. And here's the deal. It's like, Ryan Wilson, in my book, has got a great chance of winning statewide.
Right, and I agree with you entirely. And one thing to disagree with William, I think that Ryan Wilson is actually probably
been talking about the fact that maybe the marijuana candidate actually takes a lot of votes from Republicans as well as Democrats. Mm-hmm. I don't know if there's any science behind that.
I think it's a combination of the two. I think it probably takes a little more from the Democrats, but
I would
the
hope
idea
so.
that it's all Democrat votes, I think that's not founded.
Yeah, right. I mean, I'd hope so. But yeah, I like Ryan Wilson a lot, and I think he has a good chance of winning. It is funny that the marijuana candidate has a good chance, or is getting 5% in this poll, considering that, well, does marijuana have anything to do with the auditor's office? I don't really think so.
I don't know about that. If it ever gets legalized, they'll need to audit the programs.
Yeah.
'Cause that's a good way for government to steal more money from us. So I'd love to go to the audience here if anyone wants to comment on this, but what are your thoughts on, does the marijuana take equally from both parties. And I also want to ask this question, and maybe we need to do a special segment. Do you know why she's called White Claw Julie Blaha? Because
just
the
thinking
media didn't
about-
really report this, and we
Yeah.
might have to do a special segment on this story, like where her and the Senate Majority Leader, or Minority Leader, Melissa Franzen, got into an accident. I think they actually completely overturned the car.
Yeah, they did.
And this is coming out of Farm Fest, and there is a White Claw open container in the vehicle. And, of course, nothing really comes of it because they're the Democrats, and they get covered by the media.
Well, Jake, you're not even saying the best part. This came out of Farm Fest in 2021, and the story that Alpha News broke about the white can in the car, the White Claw can in the car,
Yeah.
didn't come out until like almost a year later. I think this broke like July,
Yeah, it was
something
this
like
year.
that. It was
Yeah.
just absurd that, and then of course the media comes out and says, "Well, there's no evidence to support the fact that." Sorry, I'm not trying to steal your thunder. Go ahead and tell the story.
No. You were doing a good job.
Okay, well,
Not with your dress today, but with the storytelling.
see, it's actually funny. Jake normally makes fun of me for wearing sweatpants, and today he's going after me hard for actually dressing up a little bit, which I think is.
I know,
funny,
but you ruined this. You ruined the dress when you got white socks on with that outfit.
well, regardless, so these two were heading home from Farm Fest. They get in this total accident. The car is upside down. You can tell it's her car because she has the Amy Klobuchar for Senate bumper sticker on the car. But supposedly, the cops show up. Well, before the cops show up, the DFL response van
Yeah, they got
pulls up.
It says DFL on it. It's like,
Yep. And
crazy.
Ken Martin goes up to the police officers as they're investigating this thing and says, "Hey, just so you know, these are elected DFL officials. One of them's elected statewide." Like, what? What are you trying to say with that other than, "Hey, go easy on them"? And it was later discovered that there was an open container in the car. Now, supposedly it was empty. Where did the alcohol go? I think there's only one answer.
No.
to that.
The trooper on the scene said that there was still some in it.
Oh,
Do you
did he?
remember like Franzen or Blaha, White Claw Blaha, because Blaha was the one driving. I think she initially said that it wasn't an alcoholic container. I think they were saying it was juice. So they lied about that. And then it was like it was empty, but the trooper was like, no, there was still some in it.
Well, and their excuse was, "Oh, we were just holding on to it because they didn't have any recycling bins at Farm Fest."
Yeah, I know. It all reminds me of that story of those Republicans on the ethics committee, Tara Mack, and what was the guy's name, that were in a unlit park at night in Dakota County exchanging documents, right? They both resigned in disgrace after that story got broken. And I don't think the Republicans have a van that could pull up and help out the situation, right? I had a joke, but I better not say that on air. All right, let's go to. Are we done with the poll? Did I have anything else on that KSTP?
Did we talk about why the KSTP poll is so crappy?
Well, that's a great question. Go up to the top of this one, the first sheet, and you can see the sample size of the Trafalgar group is, I think, let's see, what does it say? 1,000. I'll go back right there. 1,079 respondents. Okay, and they're likely general election voters. So yes, good point, William. The KSTP poll, about 750, 800 people is on that poll. So this is a larger sample size, and this is larger than the Star Tribune, which had 800-person sample size. But the KSTP one was done online. I don't know how any scientific poll could be done online. So, and also, like, what on earth? No one believes there's an 18-point margin right now in the governor's race. Like, you got to be.
And they can't
Absolutely
even
your
believe
mind.
that either, I'm sure. And, if you're a pollster, you're obligated to give us credible results. And all the KSTP did there was remove any credibility that they have, because now we're looking at them saying, you can't even conduct a poll correctly. You can't even give us accurate results. It doesn't have to show us what we want to see. It just has to show us that you're running an accurate poll. Right. And obviously an 18-point difference shows that you didn't do a good job. They should be ashamed of themselves of putting out such a bad poll.
Well, their saving grace here, maybe their defense, is that the other statewide poll results were much closer. I don't recall what they were exactly.
Well, they were
but
neck and neck, yeah. But
It was pretty much neck and neck.
yeah, I think Ellison was leading by 6 points, which I don't think a lot of people believe that one either.
Mm-hmm.
But like, how is it showing those races are tight and Walz is so different? Like,
See,
that's
I don't even know how
ridiculous.
that happens is
No.
the thing. Like, it's definitely not a legitimate poll.
Well, and,
But-
and none of the other polls really show that,
Mm-hmm.
and then of course this one being the largest sample size definitely doesn't show it. You know, you say what you will about Trafalgar Group because oh, it's a Republican poll. It is the one that predicted Trump would win in 2016. No one else was predicting that. Now I don't know. Do you know the whole list of big things that they've called? I don't know. I mean,
Well, I mean, they do a lot of polling
Right.
in statewide races and whatnot.
and they're pretty well renowned as like an accurate pollster.
Yeah, they get it right a lot of the time, but even when they get it right, they typically they show that Republicans outperform the real results.
Right.
So I think it serves as an anchor when you aggregate all these polls together.
Right.
I think it kind of helps bring the prediction into a more balanced
Well, if
form.
I was taking an average of polls, what I would do is I'd get rid of the KSTP as a complete outlier because
Right.
no one's really believing that one right
Right.
now. Right. All right, let's move on to the next issue because I think this is very important for you to understand. YouTube banned us. YouTube banned us again. So if you're used to watching us live on YouTube, we can't go live on YouTube this week because of Jesse.
Yep, my bad. I just can't stop telling the truth, and YouTube doesn't like that at all. And it's a shame to see what they're doing to us. And obviously, it's any time that we're talking about COVID or any time that we're talking about the 2020 election, YouTube is on us, and I'm sure Facebook too. But YouTube has been going after us hard because they don't like it when, and this is free speech. All we're saying is what we believe. We're not trying to cause any kind of problem. We're just trying to say that we want the truth out there, and YouTube is doing everything they can to censor us, and it's a shame.
Yeah. What are you doing, Dustin? You give me some signal. I don't know.
I've got a quick non-bipartisan point too.
Oh, yeah.
We appealed the censorship that they were putting down on us. It didn't take more than like 30 seconds for their decision to be reached.
Yeah.
We shot them the thing saying this shouldn't be banned, and instantly, right away, no, we don't accept the repeal.
Right. Well, maybe it's Dawson's fault. He's just not good at the appeals or something like that. Well, Jesse, Jesse's first video that got us a warning. It was a warning, right, Dawson? I think it was just a warning. So this one really pisses me off. You have the most extreme speech by a president that I've seen in modern time, Joe Biden, with ominous lit background saying that tens of millions of Americans are a threat to democracy. And we do a response video of that, and our response video gets removed from YouTube. That's ridiculous. Like, that should be obvious, a mainstream opinion and political speech that should be protected. And they take that off. So we didn't get a strike on that, right? It was just a warning. So then here we do a segment last week, and it's on, and we got it up on Rumble now, so you can go check the segment that got us banned. And it was initially on Mike Lindell having his phone seized at Hardee's. Or Arby's. Which one was it?
It was a Hardee's.
Far inferior Hardee's, right?
Yep.
And then we obviously wanted to talk a little bit about the election, the 2020 election, with our opinions, right? Like, one thing that's factual is there was cheating in the election because they changed voting laws without, like, the legislatures weighing in on it. You can't do that. That's our whole contention in all of COVID, is that they just started making laws up by executive fiat, or even worse, Secretary of State just made these changes. That has to be done by legislative action, and that didn't happen in a lot of states. So that's one obviously provable point. But the other thing is, yeah, there's really big questions about how the election was conducted, and perhaps it was stolen. I don't think the evidence is overwhelming at this point. It's something we're talking. Now, Jesse comes to rise at a different point. And so here we are chatting about it. Mm-hmm. And Jesse's point's got to be valid. It has to be a legitimate part of the dialogue, just like who's the Democrat that used to say that you can't trust voting machines? Who was that?
Right, that was Jim Clyburn back in 2010. And there's plenty of examples of Democrats, let's say 2004 election or 2000 election, where there were Democrats who were objecting, just like the Republicans did in 2020, but there were Democrats who were objecting to the counts of certain electoral votes for George Bush because they believed that Florida and some other states were stolen.
Yeah, they said that it was stolen in 2020. That's a great point. Yeah,
Right, and
2020
there's
was
plenty of examples
Or,
of these
sorry,
Democrats
2000.
going after these ballot machines. And, even if it was in some cases decades ago, it's still accurate and it still shows that
But
they have to go along with their
2016.
current narrative.
Yeah, 2016 they were
Right.
saying that it was stolen. Russia, right?
Yep.
The point is, like, here's the thing: we don't know. I don't know, and most people don't know if it was stolen for sure. I haven't seen the evidence to say it was stolen for sure.
Right, and nobody
But I also
fully-
can't say it wasn't stolen. That's the whole point, is you got to have this dialogue and figure it out. But the media and the social media companies have all decided this for us. And they say the disproven. It's not disproven at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, why isn't there investigations in what was brought up in 2000 Mules? That's another
Oh,
interesting
I know. There should 100% be an investigation. And also, it's not like I have all of the evidence either. It's because the only way that I would be able to dig into all of this information is if I'm the Secretary of State of Pennsylvania or Georgia. They're the ones who are sitting on this evidence. They're the ones who changed the election laws. So we can't have all of the evidence until we have a true investigation into this sort of thing. And hopefully when the Republicans take over in the House, they will cause a real investigation and we can get to the bottom of this because there's a lot of us out there that think that our votes weren't counted or that ballots were thrown in there of people that aren't real or dead people are voting and all kinds of other crazy things. So all we want is the truth. All we want is an investigation, and wherever the truth lies, I will accept it. I just want the truth, and I want an investigation.
What I think is really funny is that the Democrats will say, well, this is the safest and most secure election in history. Why say that?
Right.
No, it's like a common talking point
Right.
amongst Democrats. You go to these legislative debates here in Minnesota, the safest and most secure election, just like the safe and effective vaccine or whatever.
Yeah.
It's their common talking point, and it's just strange to
so
me.
what do they say when they get their asses handed to them this election? That'd be fascinating, wouldn't it?
Yep, Russia's back.
Russia's back. Yeah, it came back. It's the Chinese or it's Ukraine. I don't know what they're gonna say. Well, no, they won't say Ukraine. They love.
Yeah, not
Ukraine.
China either. They're definitely in China's back pockets, especially China walls right here in Minnesota.
All right. Speaking of censorship, we have to talk about this. This is really fascinating. So, Senator Josh Hawley is it Hawley? How do you
Hawley.
say it?
Yep,
I've heard it
Missouri.
both ways.
Yeah, Haley.
Hawley.
Did I miss the W? I missed the W. Okay, so he is grilling Chris Cox of Facebook, an executive at Facebook, in Senate testimony about censorship on their platform that's tied to the government, and including the White House. Let's go ahead and play the first clip there, Dawson.
On July 23rd, 2021, a Facebook employee thanked HHS, quote, for taking the time to meet earlier today and wanted to make sure you saw the steps we just took this past week to adjust policies and what we are removing with respect to misinformation. This included, and I'm still quoting, increasing the strength of our demotions for COVID and vaccine-related content. On April 7th, 2021, a Facebook employee thanked the CDC for responding to misinformation queries, and I quote, we'll get moving now to be able to remove all but that one claim as soon as the announcement and authorization happens. On July 28th of this year, a Facebook employee reached out to CDC about, quote, doing a monthly misinfo debunking meeting. The CD responded, yes, we would love to do that. I'm sure they would. On July 20th, 2021, Clark Humphrey at the White House, who's digital director of the COVID-19 response team, emailed Dave Sumner at your company, among others, asking any way we can get this pulled down and cited a specific Instagram account. Within 46 seconds, your company responded and said, yep, on it. That sounds like what in the law we call a pattern and practice of meeting, coordinating, and colluding with the United States government to target particular speech that no one in any of these emails alleges is incitement, which would not be constitutionally protected. No one in any of these emails alleges it directly encourages violence, which would not be constitutionally protected. So it appears to all be constitutionally protected speech on, I might add, very politically sensitive topics that Facebook is directly working with the U.S. government to target and remove. Is that your company policy to do this kind of thing?
I mean, that's crazy. And this is stuff that's like being revealed every day. I think this is from some kind of lawsuit in Missouri and maybe Louisiana or something like that. And we're learning more and more about this connection between big tech and, I mean, all the way up to the White House, let alone the CDC and the Department of Health. I want to say this was first really revealed by Zuckerberg on Joe Rogan last month, which he said that, yes, he took off the news, or they what did they call that? How they tweaked the news search or the feed search from infringing on people's free speech. So they're using this conduit, this third party, big tech, to do their dirty working, which is completely illegal. Did I just make
Agreed.
such a great speech? And you're like, oh wow, I have
You
nothing
nailed
to
it,
say
Jake.
about
I
that.
don't know.
Maybe I'm so motivated by this, and you should too, William, because back in the day we hired you to run the social media for that that nurses group, right? Remember that nurses group? What was it called? The
Rally for
V Choice. Yes, exactly.
They said V instead of vaccine because they knew Facebook would take them down.
Right. 50,000 people in that group. Action for Liberty's Facebook group had 15,000 or some followers at that point. We'd spent $50,000 in advertising, wiped off the internet. And you just got to wonder, was the White House mentioning Action for Liberty directly, or did they just have a policy that ended up having our account removed? We should actually sue the White House. That's what I think we should do. Like, seriously, we should
Like
sue
a
the damn
class
White House.
action lawsuit.
I think there needs to be a class action lawsuit, and we definitely are people that would be part of that, because we had 2 major accounts taken down by Facebook because of what's being revealed today. So let's hear how Facebook's responding to this. This is Chris Cox, by the way.
Senator, I do believe it's appropriate for companies like ours to be in consultation with public health organizations and with government.
Okay, all right. Man, nothing too crazy there. We should be in consultation with government, except for the government has no right to infringe on free speech. And they're just using your platform to do it. Like, there's nothing wrong with this. We should be you should be in consultation with the federal government. Like, if there's incitement of violence on your platform, maybe you could help with the prosecution of a real crime. There's no crime being committed here. This is just information and it's politically protected speech. They have no business doing this, and you guys are going along with it.
Right, and then they label us threats to our country, threats to our democracy, threats to the electoral process and everything else, when we're not doing anything to threaten that. And everyone that was a true Trump supporter on January 6th understood that they weren't going to go in there and destroy property and everything else. They just want to marginalize us and try to make it seem as if that we're insane, that we're just touting all these crazy conspiracy theories. And even if we are, why wouldn't we be allowed to do it? If it can be so easily disproven, why do they feel the need to censor and remove it? It's because it's the truth.
Yeah, there's this discussion. It's like, well, do you remove flat earthers? Like, can flat earth be a discussion point on these platforms? And it's kind of like decided, yeah, let them do it, because quite frankly, it's just like, it's so out there, right? But who gets to make this decision? Like, oh, but this idea here, like, too many people are going to believe it, and so therefore it's problematic. If too many people believe it, doesn't that just mean there's more merit to the actual story? Like, you guys are the ultimate deciders of what is true and what is not true, and the deciders of what's misinformation. And quite frankly, I might even argue Facebook has that right on their own platform. But when you start having the government decide this for you, and you're complacent, you allow the government to do it, we got a huge problem.
Right.
We got a huge problem.
Like when they took out Alex Jones and when they took out Donald Trump and Milo Yiannopoulos and other people who were censored from social media, who was still up there? David Duke, the KKK Klansman. How come he is still allowed to be on Twitter?
Al-Qaeda still has an account. ISIS has an account. I think Vladimir Putin still has
right,
an
the
account.
Ayatollah of Iran.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think this goes back to a conversation we were having on the last show, Jake, or maybe it was a show before, I don't even remember, but talking about how these corporations have become an extension of the government in this way. They're allowing themselves to be a puppet to work around legislative proceedings and the way that our government's supposed to be set up. It's sickening.
Right. All right, I want to play the end clip too. I thought this was a really good exchange between the two, and then how this thing ended, and then we gotta discuss this point here. So go ahead and play that, Dawson.
Isn't there a difference between you as a platform putting forward information and censoring your users at the behest of the White House, the administration more broadly in the CDC? Isn't there a distinction there?
We specifically wanted to work with public health experts to understand the relationship between information and behavior. And so we did consult with the CDC, the World Health Organization, and others to understand how the platform policies we built were affecting public health.
Well, you didn't just consult with them to understand how they affected public health. You actually censored on their behalf. I mean, you took these emails, I'm just quoting from a sample of them, which, by the way, have been disclosed in litigation. These emails show that you took censorship steps. You took down accounts. You planned misinformation policies. You adjusted your policies at the behest of the United States government. I mean, that's not just some theoretical thing. That's actually targeting your users' speech. But I appreciate your forthrightness, by the way. But you're saying you think that's fine, and that was your policy.
Senator, we've been public about our policies on COVID misinformation specifically, as well as on misinformation generally.
And so you think you're not concerned about any of this? Nothing that I just read to you, you're not concerned about it at all?
Respectfully, Senator, I think the balance of how to protect free expression as well as public safety is a difficult issue. But it's one we're committed to working with outside experts and publishing our work.
Well, I appreciate you being so forthright. As I said, this is actually from litigation between the state of Missouri and the state of Louisiana and the federal government. I anticipate that your remarks under oath today are going to be very interesting and helpful to that litigation.
Yeah, those will be interesting. And it's just amazing to me. Like, Facebook doesn't even seem like they care. Like, yeah, this is our policy. This is what we're going to do. And it's not just that they're destroying free. You just decide that this is wrong.
Right, and they started out on the lie. The big lie, which was that this virus was not created naturally through bats. This virus came from the Wuhan lab in China. That was censored. That was covered up. And that was the original starting point. If we are going to be true scientists, we should be questioning, how did this virus originate? And what can we learn from what was done in the Wuhan lab? And that was completely avoided. They didn't want to follow the true science. They wanted to follow their narrative. So between that, the different things that they started labeling the horse dewormer, what's
Ivermectin.
the name? Ivermectin,
yeah.
right? You know, they started attacking it as horse dewormer, and they started saying that it was ineffective, even though there's all these people that are out there that say, I took ivermectin and I feel great after having COVID. So they've been censoring the entire time along the way, and you're 100% right. One of the most basic elements of science is to ask questions and to experiment, learn from it, and continue questioning. So you're 100% right. They have covered up science.
They're anti-science, right?
Anti-science.
Science deniers or scientific process deniers.
Yep.
All right. You got a around the globe news section. So let's get into this here. I got to know what's going on. This is a section of our show where I don't really know exactly what William and Jesse are going to bring to my attention, but we're going to bring that globe in here and see what's in. Open up that. Oh, wait a second. That round globe. How dare we?
Yeah.
We've decided here.
Let's get a visual on this globe here.
Look at that globe. There you go.
There
All
we
right.
go.
Opening it up, William.
All right.
What's in the globe today around the world?
All right, so this first story, you know what, I'm saving this one for last because I'm going to have some fun with that one. So let's talk about the Pennsylvania Senate race. I know Jesse's particularly excited
I'm
about
actually
this.
very excited
Absolutely,
about
let's do
this.
it.
Last week when you guys showed me this character, Fetterman is his name?
John Fetterman.
I
Yep.
have been thinking about this a lot. This guy is so interesting.
So
I've seen one of his arm tattoos get like numbers, like he's, prisoner numbers.
Well, and actually what those numbers represent is I think they are the dates of people that were shot in his hometown of Braddock. So I think that he tattoos all of those dates on him as a reminder.
Yeah, but that's not what, correct me if I'm wrong, but if guy's got numbers right here, that's generally signifying your like cell number or your prisoner
Right,
number,
it does look like that.
Yeah.
Definitely looks
And
like
this
that.
guy looks like he's served hard time.
He looks like it, yep.
yeah, and our article title here, this comes from The Hill. Fetterman looks to quell concerns over health. So we've talked about the potential corruption side of things. Now we should talk about the health side of things. So Dawson, would you pull up that picture of John Fetterman I wanted focused on today?
Yep, there's that numbered tattoo
Is
there.
there a way we can zoom in on that big bulge
The
on
big
his
bulge
neck
behind his
there?
neck. Well, that just
Yeah.
means you're obese, right? Is
I
there
don't-
something else that means?
I don't know. I mean, Tucker Carlson did a whole bit on this.
Really?
I didn't actually watch the bit. Bridget, maybe you can speak to this. I know you watched it, but it is concerning.
Well, what is it? What did Tucker have to say about it? That is, I mean, like it's enormous. But you see that in obese people.
Well, he's
Like,
not
morbidly
he's not that obese these
Yeah, I
days.
know, I
Like,
don't
he's
think
a big
he's-
guy, but he lost a lot of weight supposedly.
Right.
Right.
Here we are complimenting his health when the section is supposedly. But anyway, let's get into the article here.
Well, I'm gonna Google bulge on back and neck.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I actually.
Oh shoot! I accidentally hit enter after bulge.
Over the weekend, Fetterman drew a crowd of 1,000 at a Scranton rally and is slated to hold another rally in Philadelphia this weekend. The campaign said that they saw a crowd of 3,000 attend a rally with Fetterman and Planned Parenthood earlier this month in Philadelphia, the same day as the home opener for the Philadelphia Eagles, no less. And of course, the Democratic operative says, in eastern Pennsylvania, that's a pretty big flex. So, you got the Gen Z. with the-
Yep.
But I think this is where you see a lot of the clips. Jess, you know what I'm talking about. These clips coming out of these Fetterman campaign rallies where the guy, he recently had a stroke, maybe a couple months back, and he
Right.
just cannot get a word out. He makes Joe Biden look like he's the smartest guy in the block.
Yep, he makes Joe Biden look like he's the most intelligent, best, quick-speaking guy in the world. But and actually, we do have a video of that. Dawson, if you want to pull that up, we could
Yeah, I was gonna
take
say, I
a look
wanna
at
hear
what
him.
John Fetterman is doing at these rallies and how tough it is to watch.
Of John Fetterman on the stump.
Please understand the stakes in this race. Send me to Washington, D.C. so I can work with Senator Casey and I can champion the union way of life in D.C. Thank you very much, and it's an honor. I live 8 minutes away from here, and when I leave tonight, I got 3 miles away, Dr. Oz in his mansion in New Jersey. You've got a friend and you have an ally. Send me to Washington, D.C. Thank you very much. Thank you,
Oh
Steve
my
Rogers.
God.
I shouldn't be laughing because it's actually kind of sad. The same way you don't want to laugh at Joe Biden for
Oh
his.
yeah, but you do.
I mean, I don't like making fun of people in that way because it is honestly sad. I mean, you can tell this guy has brain damage from his stroke.
Yeah, I mean that's just terrible. The guy can't even speak. He can't put
Right.
together a sentence.
And
8
it
miles
could
then
be
3 miles.
Could be months and months to even a year before he's fully cognitively there again. He says that he says he's still able to process thoughts. It's just turning them into words and being able to speak it out
He
loud.
said that?
Right.
Really?
Yeah, and he's actually been dodging debates for the longest time. He finally agreed to one. I think it was only
Yep,
one. but-
and Dr. Oz challenged him to 5 debates. Obviously, Dr. Oz wanted to get as much time with him in a debate as possible, but John Fetterman has agreed to a single debate, and like I said last time, it's something we didn't think we were going to get, and I am so excited to see that one
Oh, my
unfold.
God, yeah,
That
we
is
should
going
do
to
it
be one
live.
of the most must-watch.
I know. That's what I'm saying. He's always wearing that.
Oh,
I should
yeah.
only wear the black Wiesenberg for Senate one that I got.
No, that is his signature look. He likes to wear the hoodies. He likes to wear the shorts, and even when it's snowing outside, you'll see him still wearing the shorts out there. So
Really?
he is. He's definitely. That's his look. That's what he's going for. So
it's a real
everywhere you
working
see him is
class
basically in a hoodie and shorts.
yeah.
In some ways, I kind of want him to be a senator just to see it because it's like it's
Right.
That was the argument about Trump is like him or not, kind of want to see how this thing plays out for the next 4 years. It's going to be entertaining, right?
Yep.
And it was entertaining, that's for sure.
And Dawson, thank you for the reminder on this video. We should pull that up because Trump was at a rally in Pennsylvania like maybe a couple weeks back.
Were you
and he
there?
makes
no, but I watched it, of course.
he makes
didn't want
a
to drive
very
across
big
country?
claim, and we should check out the claim that Trump makes.
All right,
here.
let's see the claim.
Yeah.
Listen.
Fetterman supports taxpayer-funded drug dens and the complete decriminalization of illegal drugs, including heroin, cocaine, crystal meth, and ultra-lethal fentanyl. And by the way, he takes them himself.
Ultra ultra lethal fentanyl, by the way, which he takes himself. That's just gold. Like, I don't know if that's based on any real claim. Like, I don't know if the
He
guy's
looks
a
like
drug
he does.
addict.
I think that he's a pothead, but that's just from rumors that are going around that he has been staying in his home smoking a bunch of weed since the stroke.
Right.
And, you know, he, like I mentioned last week, he used to, right outside of his office at the Capitol building, he draped this giant marijuana flag out there. So I think there's no doubt that he's doing a little bit of that. I'm not sure about the fentanyl, but I'll take Trump's word for it.
All right,
Yep.
I will too, I guess.
Well, let's
You
move
wouldn't
to
lie.
let's move to our next story. Well, we'll be following up, of course, on this story as
Right,
more
and
developments.
also there are a couple other things about the Oz thing and the Fetterman issue. One person had commented last week, and they were right to point out that Tucker Carlson had a good segment on John Fetterman, and that this guy has been supported by his parents until his mid-40s. So he that's probably where he got all of his money from. That's where he's getting all these houses from. It sounds like his parents are both pretty wealthy, and that he was basically a man-child to them for many years.
Well, they put him through Harvard, I'm guessing.
Yep.
I don't know how else he would have gone to Harvard.
That does not look like a guy that went to Harvard. That's the funny thing about it.
All right, so this next one was sent to a mutual friend of all of us. It comes from The Spectator. The title, Why Has PayPal Canceled the Free Speech Union? Jake, I think you might be particularly interested in this one. It alleges that, I've only glanced over the story, unfortunately, but it alleges that PayPal has been canceling memberships or accounts of anyone who dares question the lockdowns or vaccines or anything like that in recent years. And this guy got canceled by PayPal, and he took to the web, and he found out that actually a lot of people have had similar experiences. People's accounts are being deactivated based on political views and political speech.
And that's the concern a lot of people like us have, is that they control so much of tech, and if they control the banking aspect of tech, they really can defund the organizations they don't like. In fact, the IRS, which is under control of the government, could make those lives a living hell as well. So PayPal has always been concerning in this regard, and luckily we don't have to rely on them. But yeah, I mean, a lot of people, they use PayPal. It's been around. It's probably like the oldest online payment process, or at least the most noteworthy one. I think eBay still is primarily done through PayPal. Do I have that right? I don't do a lot of eBay shopping. It is Dustin saying, yeah, Dustin probably buys all his, I was gonna say buys all your video games. Oh boy, do I sound old. You don't buy video games anymore physically, do you?
Well, so I don't know if Elon Musk is still on the board of PayPal, but he was one of the original founders. I'm surprised that he's not speaking out more against this kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I should look that up. Is he on the board? I doubt he's on that board. How would he have time to be on a board of something else?
How is he on the board of like more than two companies? Like,
well,
these
those are his companies, right?
Yeah, I mean, what, Tesla, Solar City, is that still a thing? Solar City.
This is the
Boring
this is
Company.
the
Boring
board of
Company.
directors of PayPal. By the look at this, you can just see, like right here. Can you zoom into that? This is the image that you get, sporting that rainbow flag for you there, William.
Why'd you call me out for
Because
that?
you're the one that took in my gay test today on YouTube.
We found out
we were
he
just
is
looking
not.
at this. Yeah, we looked at this video.
So this actually could be workplace discrimination, except I don't
but
work
you don't even
for
work
Jake.
here, so you
I
can't.
I'm also not gay. I feel
Well, hold on. Stand up. Let's see that suit there. Actually, a gay guy's like white socks with that. I don't think so, girlfriend.
No, exactly. I have no sense of style.
Listen, here's the deal. We were watching a YouTube video, and it was a Hans and Franz segment on SNL. So just so you know, it's not like we were watching Queer Eye for the Straight Guy. Is that the name of that show?
Something
Bridget,
like that.
Queer
I
Eye
have
for
no
the Straight
idea.
Guy? Do I have that right?
I have no idea.
I think that's the name of the show. I might have got that way wrong. And there's this ad. It was this rainbow thing, and it says, "Take the gay test." All of us are looking at it. Pops out like this ad just couldn't stand out more. It was so hilarious, and it went to like this site that was I don't know, like overseas or something. We had fun, but yeah,
Right,
let the
there
record
was a
show that-
language barrier just in the questions.
Yes.
You could tell that these were not formulated by someone who spoke English.
And hey, let the record show, because you guys insisted on filtering me through the gay test for whatever reason. I think it's because of my apparel today.
Because your outfit today, I had to.
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And I came back straight. Not that that's a good thing or a bad thing. I am happy with my sexuality, and we don't need to say anything more about it on this show.
Yeah, well, I'd love you just the same if you were gay, William.
All right.
I'm just saying that. Although I do know you date women, so there you go.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at the board of directors at PayPal, and it does not have Mr. Musk on there. So no, not at all on there.
But yeah, that is interesting that, like you said, you'd think he would still mention it because he was one of the founders, and you think he would have some interest in seeing it still be not a corrupt organization.
He went to war with Twitter over their free speech policy.
Right.
So it's interesting that he's not more involved in PayPal when they're. I would argue that PayPal canceling people is more important than Twitter canceling people, because I mean PayPal has some actual utility. Now you could argue that you do have some utility with Twitter. You get your message out there.
That's debatable there.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was an interesting story. I don't know if you guys have anything more to add before we move to the next one.
The next story here.
All right. And this is the fun one I alluded to when we first started. Here we go. So this comes from the Daily Wire. In quotations, beyond QAnon.
Well, you know you're not a Q person because you didn't even pronounce it correctly. I think you did that purposely, like also spoiling your gay test. Is like, I am going to just make sure I don't pronounce QAnon correctly.
Yeah.
And no one's going to accuse me of it. Did you guys see that? Was I the only one that caught that one? What a clever guy.
I can't believe we brought
That's
up
like
the gay test.
That's like Bridget. That's like Bridget blaming me
Nothing's
for her
off
cold
limits here.
2 weeks later.
All right. I'm not going to say the word because it's an offensive word, but
well, that makes it more fun. Is it
how
is
offensive?
It something...
It's part of her quote, and I'm not going to stoop
what's
to her
the,
level.
give us the first letter of it.
Well, beyond QAnon stuff.
Shit, that's the word.
I'm not going to say that on there. You gave me the nickname
Mr. Straight-Laced
yeah,
over
exactly.
here.
You gave me the nickname Straight-Laced.
Well, I thought when you woke up this morning with the white socks and all, you would be playing loosey-goosey today. But apparently, he's still Mr. Straight-Laced. You are playing the part so well.
Uh-huh. Stacey Abrams says unborn babies' heartbeats not real at 6 weeks. Quote, a manufactured tool. A manufactured sound tool of patriarchy.
She's got a conspiracy where basically the whole medical establishment is making up that there's a sound produced by the heart at 6 weeks. That's her.
Here's the full quote. There's no such thing as a heartbeat at 6 weeks, Abrams said while serving on a panel. It is a manufactured sound designed to convince people that men have the right to take control out of a woman's body in place of her. And for those who need the context, Stacey Abrams, the governor of Georgia, the candidate who lost in 2018. She was running against Brian Kemp. She lost the election.
Stacey Abrams is allowed to talk about a stolen election. Yep.
Yeah, she claimed. A lot of people claim that she's the legitimate governor of Georgia. Regardless,
well, that would be misinformation. How could they do that?
She's running again. She's running against Brian Kemp again in 2022, and I think this is RNC Research pulled this up. I think this may be an old quote, but I'm not actually sure. Regardless, I don't know what she's trying to get at here. And the Daily Wire article notes it's weird what they don't know what she's getting at either.
Well, you gotta wonder if there's like some kind of scientific thing, like the heart can make sounds at 6 weeks, but it's not a beating heart, like it's not pumping blood.
Well, she says it's some kind of. Regardless, she says it's a conspiracy. Like who? Is she assuming the medical establishment's on the side of the Republicans?
Yeah. The one thing we learned last 2 years is medical establishment's on our side. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's hilarious. I mean, I love that she's jumping onto this conspiracy train, and I think that it's obviously such a wild allegation that she's claiming that the heartbeat is a made-up sound by the patriarchy. Good luck, Stacey Abrams. Good luck in this election. That sounds like it's a real winner right there.
Well, my question is, does it start at 7 weeks then? When does it start? You admit it starts at some point. When does it start? And then can we admit that you should not kill that life, right? Like, that's the thing that the Democrats never want to get into. Sorry, I'm going to go the pro-life route, but, it's a taboo subject in this election cycle for Republicans. Well, I don't think so. I think we can talk about it. The Democrats don't even want to talk about when life begins. So essentially, every time they go, well, Scott Jensen doesn't want to make an exception in rape and incest, it's like Governor Walz doesn't want to make an exception when the day before the baby's birth date. Like, what you guys take it to the far extreme. You clearly wanted to kill babies, right? So really this thing boggles down to, can we just at least agree as a society when the hell life begins, and then it's wrong to take that life. And regardless of the origins of that life, it's wrong to take that life. And the Democrats will never want to play the game. At least the right or the pro-life people want to be honest about it and say life begins at conception, right? And there's states that say the 20-week bill, right? Life begins at 20 weeks. You at least got to define when life begins, but the left doesn't want to do that. And so why, once they're born, is it any different, you know? I mean, at what age does that life have value?
Right. Well, I don't even think, like, if you said life begins at birth, that's one thing. Fine, at least you've put into, like, a statute on it. But the problem is that's an unpopular position for Democrats to take. So more often than not, they're just like, well, you know, we don't really know.
You mean because most people admit that life is there beforehand. Everyone that's been pregnant knows that a pregnant woman can feel the baby moving in it. I almost said like I've been there, you know. Men can get pregnant too. Shut up. You know, obviously as a father, you get to feel your kid the first time like on the stomach. Like, it's like the coolest thing in the world. You're like, holy crap. And you're also shocked. I don't care how many people have told you how much they can move around. Like, you can like visually watch the stomach move and you can feel it. It's the craziest thing. Look at William. William's got that big smile on his face. He's like, someday I can't wait to be a father.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what we should all aspire to.
He's got that
right?
He's got that little sparkle. You guys saw it right there. That's how we know you're not gay.
All right, Jake.
That was the gay test right there.
Well, men can have babies too. You just said it earlier.
Yeah. Science, right?
I think Ben Shapiro puts it, and Ben Shapiro has his problems. I think he puts it well here when he says, she's not only an election denier, she's a science and life denier. She denies her own loss in 2018. She's denying science, the fact that a baby is a baby. And now she's denying that it even has a life.
Right. And, you know, a lot of people didn't think she was going to run again this time because the odds are not in her favor. She had a better chance at winning it in 2018 than she does in 2022. The only thing that could potentially put her over the edge is if Trump endorsed her, which Trump has toyed around with the idea because Trump is such Trump is so anti-Brian Kemp. But Donald Trump has jokingly endorsed Stacey Abrams before, and it depends what Trump ultimately decides to pull in Georgia because obviously he isn't happy with Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger, and the only thing he could do is try to prevent the MAGA base from voting Republican, but I don't expect that to happen. It looks as if Brian Kemp is going to win another term.
Raffensperger being the Secretary of State.
Right. Brad Raffensperger is the Secretary of State of Georgia.
Dawson, it's like you can't unplug him. Like, he's just always on. Like, did you see that? Oh, we're just going to mention how Donald Trump can save the day again.
Yep, he could save the day.
All right. Well,
hey, what are your thoughts around DeSantis' policy sending those immigrants to Martha's Vineyard?
Well, Trump wasn't exactly happy because that was Trump's idea. Trump thought that DeSantis and Abbott were stealing his idea, and of course, you know, Trump is the OG. Trump is the one who was saying.
Was he saying that?
That's what he's saying right now. So apparently,
well, what did he say?
I don't know.
Of course,
the exact
you wouldn't fact
quote.
check Trump, would you?
No, I just listen to what I hear. But yeah, so I mean, obviously, the Martha's Vineyard thing is an interesting discussion because obviously it's a political game, and and you know the right is saying, well, the left has been playing these games for a long time. They're forcing us to harbor these illegal immigrants in our state. We don't have the capacity for it, so we're going to play the game right back with you guys and send them off to Martha's Vineyard. So
no, I think it's brilliant because it's such a gutsy move. But the reality is, this is what the left's been saying. So show us that you are welcoming. Show us that you're not racist. Why not send these immigrants, these legal humans, right? As you guys always say, there's no humans illegal. Let's send them to some of the best place in the United States, Martha's Vineyard, gorgeous place, very affluent. And what did they take, an hour to reject these people and send them to the national or the army base?
So this is a great opportunity for calling the Democrats bluff, which is exactly what's going on. Obviously, we need to have a more long-term solution like a wall or something that is actually going to prevent this crazy illegal immigration from continuing to happen. We have to have border security. We can't just let anyone come into our country as we want. And Yeah, so obviously this is going to be something that will continue to develop. As of now, the White House has chosen not to speak with these governors because they say they're playing games. Well, they're going to continue to play these games until you talk to them, Joe. So Joe Biden needs to get himself together, straighten up the border. Otherwise, the Republicans will keep doing things like this.
Right. All right. Before we sign off, any comments that we need to read here, Bridget?
Kathleen. Well, first of all, actually, Bucky says, looks like the room is remodeled.
Oh, yeah, we hardly addressed that. But listen, you build anything in Biden's economy here, it takes forever. So all this stuff could have been done a lot sooner. It just took us a while. We had parts coming from overseas and stuff like this, but we've built out a pretty amazing studio. Probably the best studio you've ever seen.
Yep.
I was watching Trump talking to Sean Hannity the other day. He's like, I built a wonderful company, a beautiful company. I was just like, God, I kind of missed that part of him. So, yeah, thanks for noticing, Bucky.
Yeah, I got one quick question for us. How about we go around and predict what we think is going to happen in Pennsylvania? I will start. I think that John Fetterman... I agree
to do this segment,
will.
Jesse.
Okay, good. I think that John Fetterman, despite the stroke, is going to win. It's going to be a very close election.
Really?
But if the election were held today, I would predict that John Fetterman will win this election.
That's a bullshit thing to say. You just said if the election was held today.
Right. That's
the election's not being held today.
Well, I don't. We haven't seen the debate
what's going to happen
yet.
in 6 weeks?
When we see the debate, then I'll make my final.
Well, that's
prediction.
why I don't do these things, because you don't know. There's too many dynamics.
I'm saying as
if
of
the election was
today.
held today, yeah, of course,
Kind of
it was held
hijacking the
today.
show here. I think it'd be time to
Jeez.
prep.
I didn't even agree to this segment. You just started rambling. What's happening in 6 weeks, Jesse?
I just said I think John Fetterman is probably
You're
going to
pro
win.
Fetterman, huh?
I'm not pro Fetterman. I'm
Well,
just
clearly.
Dr. Oz, which was one of Trump's worst endorsements, in my opinion. And I don't have to follow everything that Trump is going with, especially with Dr. Oz. There's a lot of people that have problems with him. He had a very tough primary between the main guy who he was going against and then that Kathy Barnett who was pulling in the true MAGA supporters. So Dr. Oz is not doing a great job of consolidating the GOP, and Dr. Oz is not running good ads against John Fetterman. John Fetterman is continually showing that Dr. Oz is an outsider. He's a carpetbagger from New Jersey, and he just has to continue with those talking points because Dr. Oz can't run an effective campaign. I think John Fetterman will win unless the debate changes it.
Jesse, not only are you wrong, you're stupid. Quite frankly,
Stupid? Did you call him stupid?
That's a joke.
Those are fighting words there.
No. I have a strong feeling that Dr. Oz is going to be winning on election day because as this questions about John Fetterman's health continue to come out, I think more and more Pennsylvanians are going to be questioning, well, do we want to put this guy in the Senate for 6 years? And, I mean, look, it comes back to crime, the economy, and education.
Don't you love how he's an expert at Pennsylvania issues right there?
Yep, and actually there was a very interesting poll, and like we have been talking about, we can't always trust the polls, but an interesting poll that I saw showed that 70% of Pennsylvania voters believed that John Fetterman was being genuine and actually saying what he believes, while a small number, 20-something% of Pennsylvania voters believe that Dr. Oz is being honest. So these people think that Dr. Oz is saying whatever he has to get elected. He's saying whatever he needs to. And they do think that John Fetterman's coming from a more genuine place.
Yeah, they believe Fetterman lives 8 miles away from this place where he's driving 3 miles away.
And I will say the best line of attack that Dr. Oz has to use against John Fetterman is that John Fetterman has said many, many times that we could release 1/3 of our prisoners and have no problems on the streets. Obviously, that's not a good argument, and it's not true.
So he literally said that?
He says it.
Oh, he's been an advocate for releasing.
Well, but you got a quote of him saying that?
There's a quote of him saying at 10, 15 different places and times.
Spinning that over and over again
Absolutely.
in your ads. Like, I assume someone's smart enough to do that one.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's basically the only good Dr. Oz ad that they have out there is him continually saying that he wants to release 1/3 of the prisoners.
Well, now I can't wait to end this program now to watch that ad. I want to see that. That's crazy. All right, are we good then?
you don't want to make a prediction?
I don't make predictions this far. I think that's a ridiculous thing to do. No, I like on principle. Oh, who's going to win the election? It's like it's just a guess at this point because there's so many dynamics. What if we get into war in the next 6 weeks? What if the economy? What if like something massive happens in the economy? what if this guy has a stroke and dies? So what I usually do is get an idea about a week out where I think the thing's going to be.
So-
and I've been pretty accurate too in Minnesota politics. I can't claim to know Pennsylvania politics.
So Jake, you're not comfortable making a prediction in the ruby red state of South Dakota on whether or not Kristi Noem wins again? You're not
First of all, I
comfortable-
don't even follow dynamics, but I mean like predictions that are bold, right?
Okay.
Not like solid Republican stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
Well,
know
it's
who
going to
should
be a
run
close
against.
one. So, I mean, either I'm right or William's right, and we'll see what happens, and we'll discuss it more, I'm sure,
Actually-
especially once that debate goes on. So,
There is a possibility the Libertarian wins.
yeah, that's right.
So
There
we
is a
could both
Tell
libertarian
me
in the
there's
race.
a chance.
So, yeah,
Bridget, did you have one other comment you needed to read?
Well, Kathleen, I think she's asking you guys, flat Earth or nah? I think it's your opinion.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
like
mean,
a
no,
Fed
of
post.
course
I-
not. The
yeah.
Earth is round. You see the globe that Williams got by him. It's clearly round.
You can't see it, but it's here. And it's round.
It's round.
It is round. There you go.
We've met some flat Earth people, and I love them.
Flat to me.
It looks flat. Yeah, of course.
If this
Can't
were a
show 3D on the TV,
yeah, you
right?
can't, no.
Put on
yeah,
those
I
glasses.
believe in the round Earth, but I also support the flat Earth movement. I think that they're good people, and it's good to be questioning everything.
All of them are good people.
Most.
Most.
I assume some are good people.
Yeah.
They're bringing drugs.
Well, yeah.
I'm sure
problem
some
is-
of them are good
I'm
people.
sure some of them are good
The
people.
problem that'd be like the biggest conspiracy ever, and there's so much science that just disproves it so easily, like satellites, for instance. But what would be like the point in fooling everyone on the Earth being round? Like if they're fooling us, then like we don't understand the universe or our reality. Like we're basically living in a Truman scenario.
If the Earth is flat, there's a lot of other problems that we're not even
Huge
like,
problems.
like Illuminati type stuff going on.
Oh yeah, it would be so. I mean, that's probably the lure of the flat Earth thing is that if it's flat. See, now I'm kind of like, oh, this is kind of sexy, right? If the Earth is flat, a lot of things are not true, right? So yeah, there's a secret society, probably lizard people. Aliens are definitely real, although. I guess where do aliens come? See, that's the other thing about flat Earth. It's like
Right, a lot of the
every
flat
planet's
earthers-
round. Everything out there in the sky is round.
Yeah, a lot of the flat earthers believe that space is fake as well, that it's just
See, that's
light.
beautiful. That just makes it even better. So
Yep.
then that conspiracy just says it's all a show.
Mhm.
Of course, there are people like Elon Musk who believe that there's a good probability we're in a simulation.
Mhm.
So if we're a simulation, this conversation's moot, right?
I can see the headline now, Jake. Jake Duesenberg with Action for Liberty spends time debating whether or not the Earth is flat.
Yeah, but who are we debating here? We're not. There's no
Yeah.
one taking.
Doesn't
the other
matter.
side.
The Star Tribune's going to run with it.
Yeah, and watch YouTube doesn't flag this one for misinformation.
yeah, they don't care about the flat Earth.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna, anything else, Bridget? Otherwise, we're gonna sign off here.
You
Nope.
can go ahead and
Okay, thank you. All right. Thank you guys for tuning in this week. We'll be back next week, and eventually we are going to make a big announcement with this show. Let's just say October is going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to get cutting edge information about politics you won't get from anywhere else right here on this show every week. Thank you very much for tuning in. Take care.